Assalamu alaikum and peace. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and you're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, which covers USA, Canada, and Mexico. About 57 million subscribers there. And it is also streamed live on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and always on our website, muslimnetwork.tv. Elections are around, of course. Everybody is talking about elections. We have an amazing, if you pardon my expression of being amazing, first debate, second debate got canceled, and now another debate is going to happen. The world is watching what we do here. What are they thinking? Especially those people across the Atlantic in Europe. What are they thinking? What are their cartoons about? How they saw the first debate? And are they as hooked up to Twitter, controlling narrative, as we see here in the United States? And to discuss with us is a young journalist, Matt Shaw. Welcome to Muslim Network TV, Matt Shaw.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Matt Shaw is founder and editor of The Locus and the news editor at The Link, author of an article, How to Run a Country in 280 Characters. Okay, so have you mastered 280 characters, Matt?
Not yet myself.
Okay, so do it fast, because then you have a future in politics. So isn't this amazing that President Trump is able to control narrative and what the media will talk, what politician will react to 280 words? That's a new art, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange kind of talent, and it's one that I think's been misunderstood in some ways. I think a lot of people think there's this kind of mastercraft behind each tweet that he writes, and there's this strategy underpinning it all. But I think if I try to get one thing across in that article with Noam Chomsky, it's that he kind of just tweets as he thinks, and he always has. And actually, a lot of the time, it's to his detriment. So it's things that he might well shouldn't have been saying, rather. But I suppose the way he sees it is that it's honest, it's open, it's straight to the point. And what it has done successfully is, like you say, kind of contain the narrative to 280 characters. So if the media want to quote him, they're quoting directly his words from a tweet, and they're always updating constant tweets. So he's really has got a grip of the narrative and the media with it.
So you mentioned Noam Chomsky. I mean, he's an expert on words, language, and media, isn't he?
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's a really nice guy, a really smart guy, and it's really strange to have gone from studying him when I was younger to interviewing him now with that article.
So, so tell me what he thinks about President Trump's Twitter. He must appreciate him, because how a person can control so much of a narrative with 280 words. But Noam Chomsky has written books after books after books to give out his narrative.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe there's jealousy underneath it all, but Noam Chomsky kind of went with the viewpoint that, in fact, there is no strategy, there is no mastercraft in it. And in fact, at one point, I asked him, could he kind of construct a Trump tweet, a typical Trump tweet any day? And he started with, first of all, you insult somebody. So the way he sees it, I think, is just simply Trump speaking his mind, and the media constantly quoting it.
But don't you think Noam Chomsky, who's master of words, should appreciate that Trump is master of his words?
I'm sure there is that kind of understanding, yeah, that I guess maybe respect, if that's the right word, that Trump has managed to take such a control over the narrative and the way the media write about him simply through a tweet every day. So I'm sure there is that kind of that understanding on that level. Because I suppose it is quite impressive that he has taken such a grip on the media just through tweets, which no one else has really done before. They've never utilized those platforms like that. But I think overall, Chomsky seemed to take the view that he hopes nobody ever does again.
So most of his tweets are what he gets up early in the morning because of some nightmare or something, and he sends a tweet. Do you think he goes back to sleep after sending a tweet?
That's a good question. When he tweets really early in the morning, but I'm not too sure because he's so passionate when he writes things at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It almost makes me think he's actually not gone to sleep that night and he stayed up all night and found something that makes him angry.
So who among the European politicians is learning from Trump to be good on Twitter?
That's a good question. I think they've all tried to take kind of a leaf from his book there. If he's highlighted anything, it's that politicians haven't been using Twitter enough, or that at least they could be using it in a more effective way. So I think a lot of them have taken this kind of tweet more often and more passionately about things, and at least more honestly as well. I think Trump, a lot of people don't like it, but when he tweets, he really is kind of just unfiltered. He's just speaking his mind, and I think some politicians seem to have tried to emulate that a little bit. But then there has been such a pushback against it that they might be a little bit cautious about following suit.
So do you have any idea whose tweets get some coverage in European countries?
Oh, it'd be difficult to name names. It's usually whoever has the highest authority. Their tweets go straight to headlines. But definitely, if they're a bit more provocative or a little bit insensitive, they usually shoot straight to the front page of papers. It'd be difficult to name names, though. I think it's kind of just a broader effect.
What about the French Macron?
I must say I haven't read too many of his tweets. Surprisingly, it's actually an area that I need to read more down.
So how the first debate was covered in UK?
The first debate.
You're close. You're somewhere in New England, right? Sorry, New England, meaning in England.
Yeah, I'm in Lincoln, kind of in the Midlands, a little bit more north of England. And
Okay.
the first debate was covered in a little bit of a critical fashion, a very critical fashion. It was said to be embarrassing. It was a national embarrassment. It was described as bickering, arguing. I think actually a few papers kind of just disbanded the idea that it was a debate at all.
So, I mean, it's in the morning when debate over there probably came, right? So were people able to watch?
I'm not too certain how many people actually did stay up for it. Yeah, it comes in right just after midnight for us in the early hours of the morning. So I'm not too sure how many people actually stayed up for it, but I know it was a very popular thing that people went to look at when they woke up in the morning.
Okay. So were there any, cartoons and all that?
I haven't seen any cartoons yet from the first debate, but I am absolutely expecting that there'll be many of them. And they'll carry, I imagine, the same exact lines that have come through in the headlines and the analysis, which is essentially, from what I've seen, that not only was it just two older white men bickering and throwing insults at each other, but there was definitely more of a critical focus on Trump in particular, because his strategy in that debate seemed to be just stop Biden from talking.
I mean, in America, since pandemic, people report newspaper subscriptions and television viewership, which both were going down, has gone up. How is the situation in UK?
Oh, that's very interesting, actually. I think without having official figures in front of me, I would imagine, and I wouldn't be surprised if the exact same thing had happened over here, because I think people are a lot hungrier for news at the moment. They want to stay in touch and stay up to date with everything that's going on. So it absolutely wouldn't surprise me. I've seen a lot more people talking about the news recently, sharing articles back and forth and figures and charts, because it is just a time people want to stay connected.
Hmm. When I go to say BBC site or Guardian, which I subscribe, they have this US editions and UK editions. So US edition is, of course, giving us a whole lot of US information. How much UK's paper are covering these things, those which are distributed there or published there?
I think it's less than America probably expects. We do touch strongly on the big things. So we covered the first debates and things like that, really, really newsworthy, and even UK readers want to hear about it. But I think it is less than people think, just because we've got at the moment our own problems with COVID, like everybody. We've also got Brexit going through. So I think they're less focused than there might normally have been on US politics. But then at the same time, there's maybe more because it's such a hot election year. But I think we cover the main events. Definitely, you mentioned, say, The Guardian. I've got a subscription to the New York Times, and whereas they constantly, every day, cover the intricate details of the campaigns and the election and things like that, in the UK, unless you are looking at the US edition of the UK papers, I think they're a lot more hesitant to put too many details in, because I think British viewers just want to know more about Britain right now.
So, design-wise, I like Guardian. I mean, anytime I'm in London, I pick up several paper, but I like design-wise Guardian's design, and I bring it here, show it to my children, so they know that there is something in the world called papers. But papers are dying out; they're thinning out, and all that. So, how is in UK? Are papers is still something people have in the morning?
I agree with you. They are definitely on kind of a slow decline, and I also agree the Guardian's design is quite nice. I like it too. But I would say, yeah, they're still popular. Obviously, they still sell a lot, and a lot of people read them. But I think definitely the readership that especially the big nationals had, is dwindled. A lot of people don't read newspapers in the morning. Everybody I know, except my parents, reads just digital news. They just check their phones in the morning. But there is something quite comforting about having that real paper in front of you.
Hmm. So, so what do you see difference between the U.S. elections and the election in UK or say France or Germany?
I think the biggest thing that jumps out, I've actually asked that question, but in reverse to people before, kind of what makes it so different from us. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is just kind of the press and the money, and the length of it as well. Elections here in the UK are much kind of the time that we actually cover them and spend a lot of attention on them is much shorter, whereas in the US it seems to be halfway into the presidential campaign, and people are talking about the re-election or the next election, and focusing on that again. The spending's a lot bigger, huge, especially this year. Now that we've smashed, I think, most records in advertising, especially. I think more than anything, kind of this horse race style coverage of it, which is one of the things I'm studying at the moment. We have it in the UK, but I think this kind of neck, almost sports style coverage, trying to make it really flashy and dynamic and interesting all the time, I think that seems to be a very American thing, but over here we do focus a little bit more on the mundane facts and going through the manifestos and things like that. So it does seem to, in fact, sometimes when I turn on American news and it's doing the political coverage of the election or anything like that, it can feel a little bit like a movie, or like they're trying to make it into a kind of reality show, which I guess works for Trump. Over here, it's a lot more, I think, just driven by the facts and the figures. And we do have that kind of horse race style, but just to such a lesser degree.
So here we'll be spending this election season on just federal elections, $10 billion US. Do you have any idea how much people spend on British elections at national level, UK?
I know it's nowhere near that level. I think I wouldn't be able to say the exact number of pounds that are spent over here or in Europe, but I think you'd be looking at a much smaller amount, which I guess it makes sense to a degree. We're a smaller country, but to see that amount of money washing through politics in the US is actually quite saddening, because with money comes corruption and bribes and things like that, and it is kind of an unfathomable amount of money. The idea of anyone spending anywhere near that in the UK is just, nobody would be able to imagine it.
Is French and German election more or less the same as British elections? Not much money spent, not much advertisement?
I wouldn't generalize too far without having studied them, but I think definitely, I looked up some figures earlier today, actually, from France in particular, and the figures were much lower. So I think, yeah, the same kind of thing applies, which is, from the way we view America here in the UK, kind of, it fits well, because the way we see it is America is usually constantly striving to be this bigger, better thing, and obviously that's more and more money every single cycle. So definitely, yeah, I think Europe spends so much less money than the US in these kind of things.
You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Mujahid, and I'm talking with Matt Shah, who's a journalist, UK-based journalist. We'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam. You remember me? I appeared in so many episodes that Sound Vision has put on the market. No matter what. Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, sorry. Lockdown is what it is. Well, continuing here. In this lockdown, Sound Vision never stops thinking about you, the viewer. We'll have to get back into production again, online and inline. Everybody in their own space, even me. Although I'm stuck with Lanisa.
Salam! Salam! Salam!
I know, you were shocked too. Well, let me continue. This is what I was going to say.
Salam, salam, salam. Cut, cut, cut.
Finally, I get my own screen time again. Thank God. And so we invested in new equipment to bring you even better production with new songs and new singers and animations. Well, here are a few clips. And Sound Vision has brought all this into your home, making Islamic values and teachings easy. And if you know me, Adam, a multi-talented actor, well, sometimes I'm an actor and the reporter and the... Oh, that's enough. Let's move on to the next section. Well, you can watch these new episodes on our new app at www.adamsworldapp.com. We have previews happening every day on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision has been serving generations, moving and changing with the times. We are all faithfully connected. That is a huge blessing. Your donation helps keep these programs available now and into the future. We take this job of helping tomorrow's Muslims today seriously, and you should too. Today, we need your help. Children absorb and learn from everything they encounter. Make that wholesome, positive, grounded in our faith. Together, we can accomplish our goal of raising better Muslims, better neighbors, and better citizens. Please donate generously.
It's an investment in our future.
To finish, let me tell you, there are new scripts of my new mission. And it is something that I enjoy talking about. My new mission is space. Houston, we do not have a problem. Salam, see you soon.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Matt Shah, who is a UK-based journalist with good interest in the US politics. Tell me about the European media. You know, Europe has come together after the World War II. The wars ended. People started working with each other. And European Union came into being, and people can cross borders. Of course, all of that is being challenged by Brexit, we'll talk about in a minute. But is there a European-wide media?
There's definitely. I'm not sure. Are you? Sorry, I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
You know, you have BBC, which covers all UK and probably quite a bit of the world. I mean, in America, say if you're watching CNN or, America is a bigger country, but European has many, many small countries. Is there a media which, say, reaches more people in Europe, covers Europe, and can be considered, okay, this paper or this television essentially covers whole Europe? In America, for example, we used to have the New York Times and Washington Post and Chicago Tribune. These are attached with those cities. They acquire some more audience, but they are more localized media. Until USA Today came out, and then USA Today was printing the news about the whole country, and pretty soon it became the second best paper in the country. Television normally here localized, but also national news comes in at least in 5 national channels. What is the scene over there? You know, borders were demolished, people were moving here to there in Europe, but is there a media or paper or television or radio which one can say, well, they cover Europe and more people in Europe probably listen to, watch that, or something like that?
I can't say there is. To be honest, I think I'd like to think that the BBC is kind of respected throughout Europe, but I wouldn't be surprised if people in other countries simply just didn't read it. I know there's Euronews, which I think tries to kind of plug that gap and cover things from across the continent, but I can't think of any single publication or TV channel or radio station or anything like that that does news from all over Europe now, which is why it's quite refreshing actually to look at the newspapers from other countries, because they are just so different in the way they do things, depending on where they're published. So no, and I think that's actually quite an important point. I think we would do well to have maybe just one thing that covered most of Europe in one go and was kind of just well respected and trusted throughout.
How is Chinese media in UK and Europe? I mean, here, China has a lot of reporters. They pay a lot of money. I mean, some of the freelancers make, 4 or 5 times more money working for Chinese media as compared to the US media and clients here. And the film now, the Disney came up with a Mulan movie, which is partially filmed where people say genocide is taking place in Xinjiang area of China. And that Mulan movie is, gives a sort of Chinese nationalism there. So Chinese media is substantially increasing. I was looking up their English media budget was higher than the BBC budget. So how is China covered in the British media?
Strangely, I think usually quite critically as well, especially at the moment. You mentioned the Xinjiang controversy, the concentration camps things going around the media. That was covered quite extensively from what I remember in most of the British media, especially the BBC and I think I saw quite a lot in the Guardian at the time. So they definitely were very critical of that. And then there were plans for China to be involved in our 5G network. I'm not sure if they still are in a minor way, but the plans they had in place were massively reduced after there was quite a lot of pushback, which started in the media, I think, because the media were also very hot on that and quite critical. So I think in general we're not too don't view them in a particularly positive light in the UK media. There seems to be a lot of criticism and distrust cast their way, which is also probably, I imagine, fueled in part by the US. We seem to take quite a lot of cues from you.
What is how television reaches all the British audience? Is it through Sky TV, which is through satellite type of framework? Is the satellite TV the main TV through which all channels reach throughout UK?
Well, over here you have to buy a TV license if you want to watch television. I think you're allowed to watch Freeview with that one, but I'm not too certain on that. But yeah, I think we all just have digital sets. We've moved on from analog and stuff, and we just broadcast that. And you can watch that whether you have Skybox or Apple TV or any kind of other technology plugged in. And I think probably the most one I've seen is people either watch BBC News or Sky News. Those are usually the two competitors there.
And Sky News is owned by the same party which owns Fox in US. Do they tend to cover right-wing people more?
That's not something I've noticed actually. So if they do, they must do quite a good job at keeping it subtle and under the radar. They seem to stay fairly neutral in most things. But then obviously we have the BC as well, which is meant to stay completely neutral as much as it can. So I think maybe Sky probably takes cues from that in order to compete in this market. They do seem to stay fairly impartial, but whether or not they do cover more right-wing stories is something that could be a possibility. I don't watch Sky News all too often myself, so they very well might do. But whenever I have watched it or read it on their app, I haven't noticed that at the moment.
So probably you don't watch any television, but I heard there are several Muslim television channels on those Sky TV or the satellite TV. Have you ever watched any of those?
I haven't. No, I don't think so. But then I don't watch much TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have no idea if the Chinese television and the Russian television is coming to your home through that medium either.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I would hope that if they are, they were staying fairly impartial as well. But it would surprise me if they weren't.
So anytime I'm in UK, I just turn on the TV and I watch a Russian channel and the Chinese channel and the French channel, and there is something called Euro News and the BBC, multiple channels, just to get an idea of what is going on over there. You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with a UK-based journalist, Matt Shah. We'll be right back after these messages.
My wife, she's a professor at the University of Cincinnati, who's Catholic, and by her watching and listening to our 3-year-old son watch Adam's World, she ended up taking Kalima Shahada. She embraced Islam because she learned so much about Islam and the other prophets. It really affected our life in a great way, and because of Sound Vision and Adam's World, we're Muslims.
I took my Shahada 15 years ago, and I actually am from a rural part of Ohio. And so I found the catalog for Sound Vision, and I ordered the tapes and the CDs and the books, and I used those, and especially for my little daughter, that's how we basically learned our Islam, and Islam entered our hearts through the wonderful works of Sound Vision.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brother. I just want you to know that I love the Sound Vision website, that a lot of times when I'm looking for information, especially as it relates to homelessness, domestic violence, and women issues, I go to that website, and then I see what you've written, and then I copy and paste it, and spread the word, because the wisdom is there, so I can't do any better than what Sound Vision has already done.
Sound Vision is our survival guide. It is the organization that provides skills for Muslims how to survive and thrive in this community here in the US.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Anam, I'm in 11th grade, and I grew up with Adam's World, and what it taught me was unity, respect, and love for the Muslim Ummah.
Adam's World is the greatest show ever made. Take me to the Kaaba, man. I love that puppet.
What was it like when you started this network out, when you started Sound Vision those many years ago?
After 9/11, one lady called me. And she says, what is your channel which I can watch? And I say, I'm sorry, we don't have a channel. And you know what she said? She said, then how America will know about you?
SubhanAllah. Anything you want to say to the people who are watching? We had one sister who messaged that she grew up on Sound Vision. What do you say to the people who have been long supporters?
Thank you. Thank you. It is because of you we are able to do all of that. So the generation of Adam's World, you need to take it over for the next generation. And that's my invitation to you. So keep telling everybody where to watch. They can watch it on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or easy thing, muslimnetwork.tv, or our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel. And with your help, inshallah, ladies, the one who called me, what channel should I watch Muslims on? Answer is here and now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with the UK-based journalist, Matt Shah. So Matt, tell us about this Brexit thing which you have going over there. You probably know a whole lot about that.
Yes, I think a lot of people over here might not know as much as other countries expect, just because at this point a lot of people have turned off. We had constant Brexit coverage for so long. I think people just got saturated with it. They couldn't take any more and they just lost interest. Certainly at the moment, I think people are a bit more receptive to it because it's something to talk about other than COVID-19, which I think now people are a bit oversaturated with. So at the moment, we are hearing a few more stories, especially since talks have begun again. In fact, recently there was a headline that what was previously announced to be an oven-ready deal, which the PM told us was almost ready to go, basically, might not actually happen at all, and we might have to leave with no deal at all. So we've been told to prepare for that. But I think at this point, a lot of people seem to just have the attitude of they don't care anymore. They just want it to happen so they can get on with their lives and stop hearing about it. Which I don't personally share, but I understand where they come from with that. I think at the moment it's looking like we might end up coming out with no deal at all, and we'll have to just negotiate individual trade deals, which is a shame, especially because it's one of the things that we were told not to expect throughout the process. But it might end up being exactly what happens. So it's a strange one, and the media have kind of gone full circle. They've gone from loud to quiet, and they seem to be going back to loud again.
So everybody is resigned to accepting exit without any deals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't want that, including the government. But at this point, it looks like it might end up being our only option. So we're told to prepare.
So British, who control the world and sun will not set anywhere because of trade, are losing in trade negotiations. That's very surprising.
It's a strange turn of events. Yeah, absolutely.
So, if Europeans, if British people have to go to, say, France or Germany, they will go and get the visa now?
I'm not too sure of the process. It might end up being, kind of that kind of process there. And I know that it might be more expensive to go abroad now. And obviously trade will be more expensive and things like that. So at least to begin with, it looks like it'll be a lot more difficult for people to go on holiday, and goods might get more expensive and things like that. Small businesses might struggle a bit more to import things. But I think the government's kind of just banking on the fact that we'll hopefully work out some good trade deals along the way and kind of steady the ship. But definitely in the beginning, it could be quite chaotic. Yeah.
So is Boris Johnson getting some of the flack for not having a deal?
I think Boris Johnson's getting a lot of the flack, but I think it also depends on who you ask. So I would say that I've seen Johnson getting a lot of flack. Then I think if you consume more right-wing media, you probably see a lot more of the Europeans getting a lot of flack for it. So I think Johnson himself, when he announced that we should prepare for a no-deal Brexit, he himself kind of resigned to saying that the European Council should have been more, willing to help us out with one after all our years of membership. So I think there is this kind of shift now. We initially blamed, as a nation, Theresa May for her kind of weak negotiation, and then Boris Johnson was supposed to be a strong one who would lead us through it. But of course, he might very well fail as well. In which case, I think it might split, with some people blaming him and some people blaming the people he was negotiating with. I suppose it depends how much you support Boris Johnson.
Is he still a friend with President Trump?
I don't know anymore. Definitely at the start there was that kind of bond and cooperation, but whether or not that's still going, that's a difficult one, especially as Republicans themselves now are kind of jumping ship and turning their backs on him. So I'd be surprised if other countries weren't doing the same.
So let's come back to the US and America relations. What are the stereotypes of Americans which you have heard in UK?
Okay. There is one stereotype that's been a little bit mean, actually, talking about stereotypes. There's one stereotype I think that's really, really common in the UK of Americans. And it's not one that I hold personally. I think it's a wrong stereotype. But there is this kind of belief that Americans are almost like Britain's less intelligent cousin, kind of that we're more intelligent, or at least that if we're not intelligent, America is less intelligent anyway, and that they're quite stupid, you could say, which I think is wrong. But I think if anything, it might have weakened under Obama, because we kind of had good relations with Obama and we saw him as a good president, good leader. But I think now that President Trump had his 4 years, I think it's got stronger and stronger, especially now that a good base of his supporters in the US are still supporting him after everything, still now supporting him. I think the stereotype that Americans are not so intelligent, I think it's probably got stronger in the UK. But I suppose that depends who you talk to. I don't personally like that stereotype at all. So I guess the people I talk to might have different viewpoints.
So the American journalist in the town hall calling it it's like a crazy uncle, and you guys are thinking that Americans are stupid. Well, don't you think British were always too proud of themselves?
Yeah, I do. No doubt about that. Yeah, I think we are too proud of ourselves. I think we're too unwilling to look back at our history, which is really bad. and that was shown even more in the recent protests. You guys have had the Black Lives Matter protests, and we kind of followed suit. And that involved a lot of people coming to terms with, in particular, Winston Churchill's kind of sketchy history. And a lot of people were very, very hesitant to do that. And there was a lot of pushback against that. And there seems to just be this unwillingness to discuss our past and the fact that we aren't actually all too great at the moment. But then I don't know if that happens in every country, but just looking around the world, it does look like a lot of other European countries are far more willing to accept that they were wrong and then move forward. We seem to be quite steadfast in just pretending that we were always in the right.
How history is taught in UK? I mean, in history books, what they talk about American Revolution, how it is portrayed. Does it say that America defeated British?
Oh, that's a good question. English history lessons, they don't talk too much about America at all, in my experience. I think maybe the people were taught different curriculums, and I think if you took history at A level, which is I guess our equivalent of your, I'm not even sure, the step below university. If you took history at that, I think you went through the American Revolution. But I'm not too certain on that. From my experience with being taught English history, we kind of just focused on how good England was, how we won the war. We didn't talk much at all about things like slavery. And that's actually one of the issues that came up in the Black Lives Matter protests, is that our history lessons are very whitewashed, and we kind of just talk about England and England's victories. And surprisingly, yeah, not too much about the US at all.
Actually, there's a fascinating history of in southern part of the United States, some slaves who were Muslims, their leader was Abu Bakr. They joined British. Whether they win or lose, they will set them free back to Africa. So British lost, but instead of sending them back to Africa, they dumped them in the Caribbeans. And from Caribbean, Abu Bakr has been writing letters to British Queen, I don't know who that Queen was, telling them what happened to them. And say, well, at least, because once they arrive in Trinidad, there was slavery over there. So they ran away from the cities, so they will not be enslaved again to wilderness. And they develop independent colonies there and were raising coffee, and they will. So his correspondence is in British Museum asking the Queen to at least you build some bridges so we can do our trade properly against all the betrayal what was done to us. So some of that fascinating history is there, which could be discovered. But how do they talk about the empires, conquering around the world? Is there a phrase, there was a time when sun never set on British Empire?
That's a very interesting piece of history, by the way, and that's the kind of thing that I wish we'd been taught more of in school, in history lessons. It would have been good to know stories like that, and just kind of look at how the British aren't so good all the time. In fact, we haven't been very good at all in history so far. We've done some really bad things, and I think your point there about empires, your question, it's a difficult one. From what I remember, we didn't talk too much about the English Empire at all. We kind of skipped over the British Empire. We talked a lot about the Roman Empire. That's a very prevalent memory. We did many lessons on that. But the fact that nothing sticks in my head about the British Empire makes me think maybe we didn't cover it much at all. Yeah.
Very sad. There were several thousand scholars in India who were actually killed brutally by the British soldiers, and some of them were sent to, those who were not killed were sent to Andaman Nicobar Island, which is next to Indonesia, and they died there. There is a whole lot of history. In America, this is changing. In schools, the slavery is part of the textbooks now, most of the time. What happened to Native Americans and their genocide is part of history, not as best as we like, but it is taught, and whatever is the gaps are left, especially in reference to African American. In African American Black History Month, the whole country engages, including media, in discussing those aspects of it. It seems your media and your educational system does not have a similar treatment of their history.
I think to a degree that education definitely needs to be updated and include a lot more of that. Because I mean, especially from my experiences, there wasn't anywhere near enough of that kind of education. Whether or not it's changed since I was in school, hopefully, but it definitely needs to change a lot more. And that was one of the biggest things people were protesting about. That was a big theme. But I think to an extent, the media has kind of updated somewhat. So in Black History Month, we did have a lot of articles coming out that were trying to honor that and trying to discuss it more and get people involved. So I think the media, depends which media you're looking at, depends which papers and channels you're watching. So I think there is this they're trying to move in the right direction. But we are held back, I think, as well by, I wouldn't say the right-wing media, but certain publications. And my mind straight away just goes to publications like The Sun, for example, which doesn't have a very good reputation in the UK. I'm not sure if it has a good one abroad. It's the highest selling paper actually in the UK, but also one of the most controversial. And I think that's tied in with a lot of this pushback against these kind of things. And then obviously we've also got fake news at the moment. We've got a massive epidemic of that, not just in the UK, but we've got a whole lot of it. And in fact, a lot of it was included in the Brexit referendum that was flooded with kind of misinformation during the months leading up to the referendum. And now afterwards, I think we've still got a massive problem with fake news, which almost basically does nothing but divide people more and push us further away from that goal of just educating people more and talking about things that aren't just how good the British is.
So there were marching on Black Lives Matter, and so there were participants in there as well. So it seems some level of media or some political discourse, if not the textbook, are aware of some of those things, because there were a good number of marches, right, in London and other places.
Yeah, there were lots. And we had statues being pulled down, statues being vandalized, things like that, all in protest. And there was one quite close to my hometown, which was surprising because there aren't that many people who live there. So it did, it kind of spread throughout the whole of the UK, but definitely down in London there were lots and lots of protests.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, going back to US and British relations, what are the good things they find about Americans? I mean, stupid people, if they're thinking that way, the stupid people sometimes do something good also.
Yeah, I think so. I think we take a lot of our cues from Americans, actually. So as much as there might be stereotypes against them, I think maybe a lot of people, some people at least, don't like the fact that maybe we're not centerpiece in the global structure anymore. We're kind of a lesser player now, and America's taken that role from us. So there's definitely people who don't maybe like aspects of America, but we do take a lot of our cues in education, in culture, entertainment, things like that, and politics. We take a lot of cues from the Americans. In fact, sometimes I've said it, and people have said it to me, and it seems to be a thing that if America does something, we tend to follow quite soon afterwards. So I guess to that extent,
despite stereotypes of considering them lower in intelligence than the British.
Pardon?
Despite their stereotypical mention, which you say that many people think that Americans are stupid, but overall they follow.
Yeah, I say it's a strange contradiction, I would say. Yeah, there's this stereotype of the stupidity, but also we follow along with what Americans do a lot of the time. And we, I think, idolize aspects of their culture. But I think, if anything, at the moment, there seems to be this push with the US at the moment that's shared in the UK, where I think a lot of people over here just want to see a change in the way the presidency works.
So tell me, if this Brexit happens, what's going to happen to Scotland?
That's a good question. And it's difficult to say. I'd love Scotland to stay in the UK with us. But that's been one of the big points of contention at the moment, is that Scotland actually didn't want that at all, and they voted against it. But obviously we dragged them into it, England, because we voted for it. And that's been a real problematic topic going forward, is that Scotland now is looking at maybe having another independence vote. The last time they voted, they decided to stay in the UK, but this time maybe they'll vote differently. So I think England's quite keen on making sure that doesn't happen and that they vote to stay with us. But ultimately, if they don't want to leave the EU and we're going to drag them out, I suppose it comes down to them. But it would be a shame to see the UK split apart like that.
So what do you think are chances of Scotland going on its own way?
I wouldn't like to say. It's a difficult one, because I think while they voted for for staying in the EU, I think there is still quite a strong sentiment in Scotland that we are better together in the UK, and that they wouldn't be better off alone. Whether or not it's true, who knows? But I think at the moment, at least, I think we might be staying together. But whether or not Brexit goes badly and that pushes them to go for independence or anything like that, it's hard to say.
So tell me, what are your future horizons as a journalist? What you plan to do?
Well, I want the kind of the dream, the aspiration is to go on to write for the New York Times, which I know obviously President Trump kind of pinpoints as fake news, but I do see them as is up there in the kind of gold standard of journalism. So that's kind of the dream job. But really, I want to cover US politics, whether it's from the UK and I just cover it across the seas there, or whether I get to fly out and live in America and do it on the actual place it's happening. But yeah, I'm just very interested in US politics. So any job that kind of involves reporting on that, that's probably what I'll go for.
So do you think the British media has some space for people who are America expert like yourselves?
I think there's space. I think we should make more space as well, and I think we might make more space, especially with how much this election in particular has kind of dominated the media worldwide. I think there might be more space for it, and I hope there is, because it's a powerhouse. We can't afford to ignore one of the largest economies in the world, and I think personally it's very interesting. I think UK politics is interesting, but I must say US politics is just a lot more dynamic. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more to look at and report on, and I personally just find it more exciting.
What about covering China as much?
Oh, yeah, good point. I hope there's more space for covering China as well, because
I think you will make more money covering China than you will make covering US.
We very well might do, and it's an important topic. We definitely need to look at them more.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Matt Chang. Good luck with your future career. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you. And thank you, Sherdil Khan and Dr. Abdul Wahid, for producing today's show. You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. Peace. Salam.